All right, we're recording. Hello, it is June 4th. I apologize that we changed days on this. I had to take care of some things yesterday, and I wasn't able to make the thing, but I am here today for the class. And it looks like that my normal Tuesday night thing was not able to make it, so it's just gonna be me flying solo tonight. So thank you for those who are watching. Um, This week, we were talking about aggregate functions, and aggregate functions are a lot of fun. So we've got a couple examples of them tonight. I'm just going to go over real quick what they're for. So aggregate functions are kind of like uh, the other side of the coin of concatenations. So concatenations are when you take two text fields and combine them together in some manner, or manipulate the text fields in some manner. There's concatenate, there's length. We talked about this last week a little bit. Replace, things like that. So today we're talking about the other side of the coin. We're talking about aggregate functions, about max, min, average, sum, count, and all of those. And we're going to look at some queries here in a second that do that. The important thing to remember about aggregate functions, the most important thing to remember about them is, let me pull up my screen here. The most important thing to remember about aggregate functions is you need this group by clause in them. So the group by clause is critical when we're looking at aggregate functions, because without that, the aggregate function doesn't know what value in the select statement to base as the what do I want to say, what you're aggregating off of. So if I just did like a statement that's like, if I just did this like select count, if I just did select count from rental, right, as total rentals, it's aggregating the entire table. There's 16,044 rentals in the entire thing. But, and that's really just the row count of the table. Or I could do, so here at this one here, I've got select the average duration of rental rate. I've got two here. I've got select the average rental rate at highest rate and minimum as the lowest rate. So max. So in fact, the group I'm jumping around here today. So the group by warns us, warns the query which field is going to be the constant and which one is going to be aggregated. Okay. So looking at these three here first, okay, I've got select max rental rate and min rental rate as the lowest one. So again, what these are, max gives the highest value of what's there, and min gives the lowest value in the table. So when I run this, the highest rate is $4.99. The lowest rate is 99 cents. So that's what these. So again, these are pretty. It's self-explanatory what these things are, right? So I've got here average AVG. So average. Let's do this for average rental rate, right? So the average rental rate is 2.98. Okay. Now keep in mind that that this isn't just the highest lows. This actually adds everything up. So we have 16,000 rows in here. It averages them all out and gives the rate on that. Okay, so it's everything added up and then divided by 16,000 change, like we were taught to do averaging when we were in elementary school, right? And then we have sum, and then sum is the total. So this is when it's just, it gives me how much money. So $67,000, $67,406.56. That's how much was spent overall in this 4 years. So again, so we got count, we've got max, min, average, sum, and there are others as well, but these ones are focusing on today because it's focused on your lesson. As you go, you'll see more of them as aggregate functions, right? So here, this one takes a different step. This one, I'm selecting the customer ID and then the count of the rental IDs by as total rentals from rental, but I'm grouping it by the customer ID. So instead of it instead of it giving me the total number, it's breaking it down by customer ID. So if I run this, I now have customer ID 1 did 32 rentals, 7 did 27 rentals, so on and so forth, right? So there's another one here. I've got select rating and then count a film ID as total movies by film, group by rating. So what this is going to do is this is going to give me the rating, and then it's going to give me how many films per rating there are. So when I run this, there are 193 PG movies, so on and so forth. You see all this, right? Your database may not have PG, R, and NC-17. I added them for reasons that I needed to delineate how to do these things, right? So, so this is like the fast, dirty approach how to get these things done. So this is just real simple, max, min, run there without a column that needs to be aggregated off of. And then here I've got one that we aggregate off. That's customer ID, and I'm breaking it down by count on customer ID. So we'll get a little fancier on these next three here. So here I'm adding a concatenation in there with it. So, okay, so here I've got select, I'm concatenating the first and last name with a space in the middle. And I'm calling that actor's name. I'm doing the film count as total film, same one I did here, right? Or this total rental, let's just film count. So what I'm doing is I'm doing some joins here. I'm concatenating the first and last name of the actor and calling it actor's name. And I'm getting a count of the film ID as total films. So this query is telling me, give me the actor's name and how many films they did. But in order to do that, I've got to join some tables up together, okay? So here I've got film from film actor as FA. I'm joining the actor table on the actor ID column. And notice here, I'm grouping it by actor name. Because even though I've got two distinct columns being named here, because I'm aliasing out this result, whatever I call this, I can use downstream to have it done. So here I've got I'm grouping by actor name. Okay. I also added another command here called having. Having is essentially the where clause that works with aggregate columns. You can't do where count film ID is greater than 20 because where doesn't work in this case. It needs to be different because it's an aggregate column. So here I've got having. So here it's having the count of film ID greater than 20. So again, I've got a concatenation here that I'm calling actor name. I've got an aggregation here that I'm calling total films. I'm joining two tables to make this happen. I'm grouping it by actor's name because this is my non-aggregate column. And saying where the film count of film ID is over 20. If I run this, I get this. Okay. So let me write one on the fly here and see if this is going to work. So let me say select name f dot name as film name. And then I'm going to do count a dot actor ID. I'm not sure. I'm writing this on the fly. I'm not sure if it's going to work, but I'm curious about it because when I start doing stuff like this, I get curious about how queries work, and I'm kind of writing this blind as cast number. So basically, I'm writing a query to tell me how many actors were in each film. So I'm going to do from film actor. But I'm not, I'm going to interjoin it to film. Interjoin, I'm going to do interjoin film F on F dot film ID equals FA.film ID. Group by. I'm not going to put a having clause in here because I don't want to do that. So here, so I'm trying to break this query. So we'll see if this works. I'm getting the film name. Let me just make sure that there is a table called film name. I'm pretty sure there is. Film ID name. Oh, title. Oh, good thing I looked. Title. Okay. So we get the title of the film and how many actors are in there. Because in the film actor tables, it tells me which actors were in the film. I'm joining these two together on the film ID column. And then I'm grouping it by film name because that's my non-aggregate column. So this runs, and there we go. So you see, Academy Dinosaur 10, Ace Goldfinger 2, 4, so on and so forth. Okay. So this command here, group by, is critical when we're doing aggregate functions, because if I didn't do that, if I just ran it like this, it's going to error out. It's aggregate query that are group by. And again, so I'll tell you one thing about MySQL in the last 5 years. It's gotten much better at its error handling because it actually tells you what the problem is, as opposed to just saying, hey, something weird is going on. Okay. So let's look at this one here. This one I'm doing this with a left join. So I'm getting select. I'm concatenating the name of the customer. I'm getting the total amount spent. I'm joining customer to payment. Okay. I'm doing a left join to payment. So what that's going to do is if there are any customers who haven't spent any money with me, they're going to show up as nulls. Okay. So I'm left joining payment on customer ID. I'm grouping it by customer ID. I still got to get that. I'm grouping it by customer. And I'm ordering it by total spent. Okay. Descend it. Get rid of that. Okay. I don't want it descending. I want you to see the nulls first. So again, I'm concatenating the name of the customer. I'm getting the sum of the table based on their name. I'm joining it on customer ID. I'm left joining it on customer ID. So there will be nulls because if there's any customers who haven't made a payment, we're going to see them. And we're going to run this and see how it works. Okay. So here I've got all these people didn't buy anything. And then all of a sudden we have people who bought some stuff. If this was just an inner join, we would have no nulls. But because I dared to use a left join, I get the nulls. Okay. And here's the last query for the night. And this is just let's have fun. So I'm doing customer ID. I'm concatenating the name of the customer, first name, last name. I'm getting the count of how many rentals they've done. I'm getting the total amount of money they've spent. I'm getting the average amount of money per payment. I'm getting the most they spent and the minimum they spent. And I'm joining customer. I'm left joining to rental because I want to see if there's no one who did it. I'm left joining to payment. I'm grouping it by customer and customer ID. And I'm showing anyone, I'm not counting anyone who hasn't bought anything. If they didn't buy anything, they don't count. And I'm ordering it by total spent and then by average spent per payment. So if someone's got the same amount, the average spend per payment would be less. But the error down. So I got two different things. Ordering by total spent, I'm ordering by average spend per payment. Okay. So this is just a big fancy query that uses all the aggregates at the same time. All right. So let's take a look at what our results look like. Notice I took a minute to run. We don't normally get that, but we asked a lot of this one. It is pretty busy. It's only 599 rows returned, but there's a lot of calculation. So here, Carl ran 2025 things. His total spend was just under $10,000. His average spend was $5. The max payment he made was $11. Minimum was $9. Brother spent a lot of money at the store. Rented a lot of movies. I'm curious what he rented. Hey, Joe.
Hey, how's it going?
How you doing?
Good. Alright.
I was just about to write another query on the phone. I've just been doing some queries here. I'll go back and review them while you're here. I'll do it again. So if everyone's watching, they can stop watching now and then come back for it. Right now, so I just ran this one query. Let's go back up to the top here. So this week's lesson is about aggregates and aggregate functions. And there's a lot we can do with them. But the important thing we got to remember is we got to use this group by clause. Okay. So I wrote I have three queries here that don't use it. So this one here just gives me the maximum rental rate and the minimum rental rate from the film table. And again, max and min, it's very simple. It just tells me the highest number and the lowest number in that table for that column. Average does what it says it does. It gives me the average of that entire table and divides it by the number of rows of that table and gives me the average. So here, it comes at like $2 and almost $3. So I think there's 16,000 rows in this table. It averages them all out, and that's the total that comes out. And then sum totals it up. So here, sum of payments is like $67,000. Okay. So those are pretty simple. So remember, the aggregate functions are the opposite side of the coin to concat functions, because concatenations takes text columns and puts them together, or text things. Aggregations does mathematical functions based on the command to number column. So here I've got this one here. I've got select customer ID, and then give me the count of rentals, and I'm calling it total rentals from rental, and I'm grouping it by customer ID. So instead of just giving me the count of all, so if I ran this without that, right? Let me just take this over here. So if I ran this command just like this, it's just basically how many rows are in the table, which is 16,044. If I do this, it's going to break this query down by customer ID. So the total rentals will still end up totaling 16,044, but I know, customer ID rented 46 things, 526 rented 45 things, and so on. So the group by command tells me which are the non-aggregate columns and how to sort the aggregations. So if we look down here, this one, I've got another very simple one. I'm getting the count of the films, and I'm dividing it by rating. So when I run this, I see I've got 193 PG movies, and so on and so forth. If I ran it total together, I'd still have the 16,000, but in this case, I'm breaking it down by ratings. Okay. To get a little fancier here, I've got this one here. I'm concatenating in the actors table. I'm concatenating the first and last name. So it's going to come up in one field, and that field will be called actor name. And then I'm getting the count of the film ID, and I'm calling that total films. So the purpose of this query is to give me the name of the actor and how many films they've done. The actor name is a non-aggregate column, and the count is an aggregate column. I'm joining film actor to actor on the actor ID column with an inner join, which means if it's not in one, it's not in the other. It's got to be wherever they match. I'm grouping it by actor name because I have to. Because if I try to run this, like here, this one here, if I try to run this without the group by, I get an error saying it's an aggregate query without a group by. Which, as mentioned before, when I was alone, 5 years ago, this was called an ambiguous error. It didn't tell me what the problem was. So your error handling in MySQL's gotten infinitely better because it'll actually tell you what the problem is. So I've got my group by, and then I've got a having command here. Having is essentially the where clause for aggregates. you can't use a where clause in an aggregate column because you can't. There's no, theoretically you could, but where's got its job at having's got another. So you will only use an aggregate column when you're dealing with an aggregate. You only use the having command when you're dealing with an aggregate column in this case. And I can do it this way too. I can use total films instead of this. Because once I rename it here, I can use it down the line. So here I'm doing that, and when I run this, I see that Nick Wahlberg's been in 25 movies, Ed's been in 22, Jennifer's 22, and so on and so forth. So then I have this one here, which is something similar. I'm joining the film action table and the film table on film ID. I'm getting the title of the film as film name. And I'm getting the number of actors in the film. So this query gets the name of the film and then tells me the total number of actors based on the film actor table, which is an aggregate. And here's the non-aggregate column in the group by. So when I run this, I see my actor count per movie. Okay. Making sense? So now here I'm going to mix it up a little bit. I'm going to put a left join in here. So what I'm doing is, and this is just to remind you guys what left and right joins do. So here I'm concatenating the name of the customer by the first and last name with a space in the middle. I'm getting the sum of how much money they've spent. I'm joining customer to payment as a left join. And if you remember what left joins do, it returns everything in this table and then gives data on where it matches. If there's something in this table that's not in the payment table, it's going to show up as a null. So when I run this, so I'm doing this, I'm grouping it by customer, and I'm ordering it by total spend. And since it's ascending, it's going to be 0 to the highest amount or null to the highest. So when I run this, I see that I've got about 20 people up top here who haven't spent a dime. And then here, Caroline, 50, and so on and so forth as we go down. So I know that Caroline spent $50 here laying into this, right? And just to be silly, I wrote this one. This uses all the aggregate functions we're talking about in this lesson. There's way more than this. If you do a Google search on aggregate functions in MySQL, you'll see about 30 or 40 of them. All of their function, but we're only covering these 6. So this query, I'm taking the customer table, I'm left joining it to the rental, and I'm left joining that result. So this result is joining to the rental table. And then this result is joined to the payment table. What I'm trying to get here is I'm getting the customer ID, I'm getting their full name, I'm using the rental table to see how many rentals they've had. And then the rest I'm using the payment table on. I'm seeing how much they've spent as a total, the average they've spent since the inception of the database, the maximum they've paid at one time, and the minimum they've paid at one time. I'm grouping it by customer and customer ID because those are my 2 non-aggregate columns. I have to put those there because if I don't have them there, it's not going to work. And I'm asking for account where rental ID is over 0. So I don't want anyone who's not rented anything. And I'm ordering it by total spent and average spent per payment. The first sorting is total spent in descending. This is going highest to lowest. And the second one is average spent from highest to lowest, meaning if 2 people spent the same amount of money, then this will be the second one they get sorted by. So when I run this, it took a second to run because it was a lot of calculation on the computer's part. My friend Carl Seal has rented 2,025 movies for me. He spent over the course of this lifetime about $10,000, so on and so forth. And if I scroll all the way to the bottom here, Brian has spent the least, $634. And what I was about to do, which isn't going to be, it wasn't going to be aggregate function, but I can do a, let's see, I can do select, select f dot film title. How does this would work? I want to see how many times a movie has been rented and how much money I've made off that one particular movie. So what I'm going to have to do is going to be a lot of joins here. So I need the film title. I've used film title, and then I think it's in the rental table. Okay. So I've got to join the film title. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to do from film as F. I'm going to interjoin inventory I on F dot film ID F film ID equals I dots film ID. And then I'm going to join this to rental. Interjoin rental. Equals rental is R. I'm going to interjoin R dot inventory ID equals I dot inventory ID. Okay, so we got that, we got that, we got that. And then I need to join, I can do this here. I can do this on payments. No, no, that's not gonna look good. Okay, so I gotta look at payment here. Okay. And then I can do on payment. But this is going to be on rental ID. Okay. And then I'm going to do here count. The same thing here. And then I'm going to do the same thing here. And then here I'm going to say group by. So if I did this right, which I think I did, I'm getting the film title. I'm getting how many times it's been rented from the rental table. I'm getting the total money spent from the payment table. I'm joining. So I'm joining the film table to the inventory table because that's how I get the film ID into the rental table. So I'm doing film to inventory on film ID. I'm doing rental to inventory on inventory ID. And then doing payment to everything on rental ID. You follow it? Let's see if this works. Nope. Oh, that's right, because it's not film. It's not, it's just title. So that. I know see rental ID on clause. So see rental ID. Oh, not see rental ID. It's our rental ID. Right? So there we go. So Academy Dinosaurs was rented 23 times, and the total spend was $36. Alice in Fantasia has never been rented. Apollo Team has never been rented. So this not only tells you how handy these things are with the aggregations, but now if you were a rental company renting movies, not that those exist anymore, but back in the days of Blockbuster, I would now know which movies to either take off my shelf or to do a special. So as you look at this, these become like super critical in what the things you're trying to do. When you're writing queries, aggregate functions are fairly important because eventually you're going to need totals of things. You know, um, so yeah, that's pretty much it. So that is and I really like how we broke down the weeks now, because usually we talk about this and concatenations and all this other stuff in 1 week. This week we're only talking about aggregate. And the queries you'll do on the writing assignment are actually fairly simple. Like last week's were really simple, comparatively speaking. So that is my spiel. Do you, my friend Joe, have any questions on the stuff that I've done here?
No, it looks good.
It's broken down a lot easier than it used to be. So this is fantastic. This is great. So here. So before we sign off, I just want to make sure you or anyone who's watching, if you're doing the final project, I want to reiterate, we're in week 7. We're halfway through. You should at the very minimum at this point in time have your ERD complete and start to write your insert statements and your use cases. Okay. Please remember that when you turn this in, I need the ERD, the code to create the database, the code to insert data into the database, the code and explanation for your use cases, and the a mock-up of the front end, what it looks like, and either a PowerPoint presentation or a quick video explaining the project to me. What I do not want is the database. People always send me the database. I can't do anything with the database. Don't try to back it up. Don't send me the database file. All I need are those 6 things, and it'll be fine. The sooner you get it in, the sooner I can grade it. The very absolute latest they are due is at the end of week 13. And if you are doing the final project, you do not need to do the final exam. People try to be sneaky and do both to get whichever has the better score. And there was one semester that I took the lowest grade between the two because I never said which one I would do. But if you do both, I'm going to ignore the final exam, just flat out. If you turn in the final project, I'm ignoring the final exam. Unless you screw up the final project so badly, I have no choice but to do that. But in 7 years of doing this, no one's ever screwed up the final project that bad to where I've had to go take the final exam, man. You ain't gonna make it. So that's that. Who joined on the? Did someone else join? Snuck in. Kristen, you snuck in. I didn't see you coming. When did you get in here?
I got in here like 30 minutes more. Well, I'm sorry, no, like 20, more like 20 minutes ago.
You got going through the code here when you were. I was nipping through the code here.
What's that?
Did you see me go through some of this code?
Oh yeah, I got some of it. And I think I'm getting it okay. So I'm can you remind me what a left join actually
Sure. So
does?
left join does. So I look at this one here again, right?
Mm-hmm.
Left join does. I'm joining customer to rental on the left join. What that
Mm-hmm.
means is I'm going to return. It's going to return everything that's in the customer table. It's only going to give me data on the rental on these columns whenever rental's involved, where there's data that matches. Let's look at this one. This one's a little bit better here. Yeah, so here I've got customer first name and last name. I'm doing how much they've spent, and I'm left joining it to the payment column, the payment table.
Uh-huh.
When I run this, it's going to return every customer for me, but there's only going to be data in this column where they spent anything. So when I run this, I see that these people did not spend money in my store. When I get down here, they did. Because I left joined it, these show up because they were in the customer table, but there's no matching data in the payment table.
Oh, I see. Okay, thank you.
Right join does the exact opposite. So I do a right join here, and this isn't going to show anything. But if I do a right join, it's going to show me where the stuff in the payment table, but give me nulls where there's nothing that matches in the customer table.
Gotcha.
Okay, make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
No problem. So this, you can also see this here too. If I look at this one here, everything comes up, and eventually we're going to find someplace where there's zeros. Oh, look at this is what stops it.
Okay.
So now when I run this, it's going to show me. So all these people, no one rented anything. So everything is null. Okay.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I don't think so.
Okay. Like I said, I think you call that. What I was saying is that the way we've set this class up now is they're really more bite-sized pieces. So all we're really talking about is aggregates here, and it's easier to catch up on stuff. Like if you still had a question on like how left joins work, it's easier to catch up than dealing with aggregates and concatenations and other stuff on top of trying to figure out what we did with all the joins last week. So,
Right.
right. So if there is nothing else, that is the end of the show tonight, my friends. If there are no other questions, anyone need any questions asked on your final project that you're working on, or
Um, I have at least started my ERD. Um, I was thinking of like what I'm planning on putting together is like a road trip
oh, that's fun.
like planner type thing,
Yeah.
database. So that's the plan. And I've got the beginnings of my ERD going, but it is uh it is slowly coming.
So next week, if you want, at the end of the meeting, we can, you can share your screen and show what you've got. We can kind of go over it and look at it and kind of work through it together.
Okay.
Same thing, Joe. I don't know if you're doing the final project, but the same thing for you. If you're here on a Tuesday night, I'm done with my stuff, and you've got stuff to talk about your final project, you can share the screen and kind of have a community effort on figuring out the ERD. But I think a road trip plan is a pretty cool idea. There's a lot. You just have to make sure you don't go crazy because you can get a lot of tables.
Yeah. I have like 10 at least, I think.
Yeah, then you should be fine right there, unless there's something you desperately need. I would stick where you are there now. But yeah, we can if you want next week, you can share your screen and we can go over it real quick.
Yeah, that might be really beneficial for me, I think.
Cool. Let's plan on that then.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
no problem. Joe, same for you. If you're doing the final project, you want to work next week. We're back on Tuesday night next week. So the reason I'm not here is my wife and I are staying with the Orlando Opera Company. In 2 weeks.
Nice.
That's
Uh,
awesome.
they do these things where they basically air the movie Lord of the Rings, and there's a live choir and a live orchestra that go with it.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that actually, so we have rehearsals Tuesday and Thursday this week, and then we perform next Saturday. So next week I have no rehearsal, so we'll be here. But yeah, so next Saturday we'll be at the big Performing Arts Center here in Orlando. It's called the Dr. Phillips Center.
Oh man, that would be so cool.
I the music that we're singing in Elvish, which is interesting. To but it's gonna be pretty awesome, I think. I've never seen one before, and I never will because I'll be in them now. And then 2 weeks later, they're doing the Harry Potter one, which I didn't get involved in.
Oh man,
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to find me one of these things.
Are you in Utah now?
Not yet.
Yeah.
I'll be in Utah in a couple of weeks.
Where
So,
whereabouts in Utah are you gonna be?
uh, Stansbury Park is where we're headed. I think it's like right by Tooele.
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah. I'll guarantee you they have these things in Salt Lake at the big commerce store. I don't know, but they got a big Salt Lake Center there. But yeah, I'm sure it's gonna be there. But yeah, it's pretty cool.
We're not too far from Salt Lake. They might have, I'm sure they have stuff like that there as well.
Yeah, my kids used to live in Centerville,
Okay.
so I know where Tooele is, and I know that it's not spelled the way it sounds. So it's just weird.
Right.
There's a lot of that in Utah. There's Tooele, and there's starts with an O. Tip up no. There's a temple there. Anyway, they got weird words. They got weird names. I'm one to talk because here in Florida we got like with Lakuchi and
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Ocoee.
Coe. Yeah, Okeechobee. Yeah, we got Indian names here. So anyway, all right, friends. If there's nothing else, we're good for tonight. Thank you for coming. Thank you for making the switch to Tuesday, Wednesday for me. I appreciate that. I was alone for the first 15 minutes and it felt weird. I was glad to have.
Yeah, like I was 20 minutes late too.
That's quite all right. It's not a big deal. There was one semester I did all these by myself because no one came on a Tuesday night.
Hmm.
So next week I look forward to working with you, Kristen, on your thing. And
Yeah.
so if you got yours, we'll do yours, and if not, we'll talk to you next week.
All right. Sounds great. Thank you.
Okay, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.